Welcome, one and all, to Half Court with your boys, Logan Dolby and Matt McClure. Got the new intro rolling this week. I love it. We had a little bit of technical difficulties with our typical cameras here, so Facebook Live is being streamed from yours truly, Matt McClure's laptop here, so bear with us if you like viewing on that or like listening on that. We're just dealing with some difficulties out here in the studio. The Celtics right now dealing with some difficulties of their own. Jaylen Brown turning down their 4-year, $80 million extension offer so that he does not hit restricted free agency. McClure, what's going on here with Boston?
Yeah, I don't really know what Jaylen Brown's thinking here. I understand he's coming off a pretty good year last year for the Boston Celtics, but if you look at this guy over his career, I think $80 million worth 4 years is pretty good. I mean, that's just me. But this guy's career numbers aren't really that impressive. I mean, he averaged 11 points his rookie year, or 11 points for his career. He had 13 points last year. Now, has he improved his game each and every year? Yeah. But 4 years over $80 million and being a young piece with Jason Tatum, I'd take that if I was Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics. He obviously wants a little bit more money, and it's a good team there, but I was actually caught off guard when Jaylen Brown declined this offer because I felt like that was around his price range and something that he would really like for the Boston Celtics.
I think for Jaylen Brown, this is actually a pretty smart money move. Just because of how weak free agency is coming into 2020. I mean, guys like Anthony Davis or Pascal Siakam are most likely going to get the Supermax by their teams currently, and then guys like a Brandon Ingram or a DeMar DeRozan or an Otto Porter Jr. and Buddy Hield all looking to hit the market, Danilo Gallinari. So Jaylen Brown really would be the best player to come out in free agency that year, maybe looking at a fat paycheck, especially now with Kyrie Irving off the team, Al Horford off the team, Marcus Morris off the team. We could maybe see Jaylen Brown play a little bit of 4 or have Gordon Hayward play the 4 and Jaylen Brown slide in at the 3, and his numbers would look to increase this year, maybe make a little bit more money than that $80 million that Boston is willing to guarantee him right now.
Yeah, and you said it. He could make more along the line and he could have a bigger deal, or the Celtics offer him a bigger deal. My guess is he'll probably stay in Boston long term unless somebody, like you said, in free agency brings him in and maybe overpays for him. But I was just a little caught off guard. I saw that deal. I'm like, hey, that's not a bad deal. But he didn't take it, and we'll have to see how things go for Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, and another young player, same draft, Buddy Hield. He's threatening to leave Sacramento because they're not going in or accepting his demands there for a contract extension. They want to offer him $90 million over 4 years, try and keep that young core together that they've assembled. And Hield said that he wants 110. He's actually going to go out. He's going to play for the max this upcoming season. He should get better this year. He's only gotten better as the years have progressed. I like Buddy Hield a lot, especially as a pure shooter of the basketball. This dude is top 5 in my opinion. He's only getting better. Once he came out of Oklahoma, he had a rough year or two, but now that he's really gotten into a swing of things, really impressed me last season. Buddy Hield looking for that fat payday.
Yeah, I think he deserves it. This is somebody who's grown into a pretty solid shooter in the NBA. Dolby, you kind of mentioned it, and we mentioned it with Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown improved, and so did Buddy Hield, but Buddy Hield's numbers are better, especially last year. This is somebody who is lethal from 3. He can shoot from anywhere on the basketball court. He's working on his ISO game a little bit more. Him and De'Aaron Fox have been great for the Sacramento Kings. Buddy Hield, I think, deserves his money, man. And if you're the Kings, I think you got to sign him to that max deal, because the Kings have screwed up year after year with draft picks, letting somebody go. It's been a rough scene for the Sacramento Kings, and this is a year where people are saying this team is on the brink of the playoffs. Well, here's somebody in Buddy Hield that can help you out. I think you got to do it if you're the Sacramento Kings. You got to give him his money. He deserves it.
The Kings also offer Bogdan Bogdanovic a $51 million contract. He also plays the same position as Buddy Hield, so they can really have one or the other, especially since they signed Harrison Barnes to a monster contract. But if you're the Kings, you really have to keep this young core together. You were floundering for years and years with Boogie Cousins. You get rid of him. You trade him for Buddy Hield and 2 picks, which turned into Justin Jackson and Harry Giles. Harry Giles looking to get a good amount of minutes this year at either power forward or center for Sacramento. And Justin Jackson got flipped with a pick for Harrison Barnes. Or not with a pick, with Zach Randolph and Justin Jackson for Harrison Barnes to the from the Mavericks. So you've really been winning a lot here with trades and the draft, and you've been trying to make the playoffs for the past few years now. You're finally knocking on that door. You got to keep this young core intact if you're Sacramento.
Absolutely, and we've said it. I mean, this is a Sacramento team that has stunk in the draft, have made all the wrong moves over the last 10 or so years. They drafted Boogie Cousins, and you thought when he was drafted they were going to take that step, and it really never worked out with him. He was dominant for the Kings, but the team as a whole and winning wasn't a priority because they stunk up the joint. Now they finally got some draft picks here, and they got a young core, and you mentioned it with Harry Giles. This is a guy that was injured, and now he's coming back here, and he's got a big year this upcoming for the Sacramento Kings. He's got to be somebody to step up in that 4 to 5 role now, especially with Willie Cauley-Stein gone as well.
Yeah, with these 2 young guys looking to hit free agency this upcoming offseason, you've got the Memphis Grizzlies, the Atlanta Hawks, the New York Knicks, all with a lot of cap space. They could go on a spending spree here, maybe get 2 good young players to add to their cores, and I know for a fact their mouths are watering at the fact that these young players here are not signing their deals before the deadline here on Monday to get that done. They want them to hit free agency. And you know what? As a 76ers fan, I'm really hoping that Celtics pay that man Jaylen Brown. For Sacramento, I've been rooting for Buddy Hield. I've liked his career. I really liked him in college. I hope he gets paid just for the fact that I like the dude, and I think he really has game. But right now, if you're the Grizzlies, the Hawks, or the Knicks, you got to be loving this turmoil at the moment, especially for a guy like Buddy Hield. Could you imagine, like, a Buddy Hield next to Trae Young?
Oh, geez.
That's like the Splash Brothers of the East.
It really is. It is. You're right there. I mean, if you could imagine that, man, that's a lethal weapons there from 3 in Trae Young and Buddy Hield. That would be the Splash Brothers of the East, man. If you're the Hawks, you're loving this because they got some cap room now, and they could use somebody like Buddy Hield on the wing. That would be a big-time move if Buddy Hield went to the Hawks. They'd be right in there in the East. I'd say above-average playoff team sitting in the 5-6 if Buddy Hield would make that decision. But hey, I want Buddy Hield to get paid, and he's a big-time player. I think he's been great over the last few years, and he's grown. He understands how hard he's working. He wants it, man, and he's grinding hard, and it'll be interesting to see what the Kings and where he is.
In other news, Luol Deng retires from the league today. Played 15 years in the league. He was on a few Bulls teams that made a couple deep runs in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Luol Deng, though, I mean, he hasn't been anything special, just a solid rotational guy. He spent his last season with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm really looking for this guy to maybe play in the Big 3. I would love to see Luol Deng, try and bust some chops out there in that other league, play maybe a little half court. He slowed down a bit towards the end of his career. I think that would suit him pretty nicely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is like year after year, he was a contributor to those Bulls teams that went on some runs in the playoffs. You knew what you were going to get from the guy, somebody that is going to play his heart out, who has a little bit of offensive game, can get some scoring there for you. You know he's going to bring it on the defensive end. He's had a solid career, 15 years in the NBA, and I agree, Dolby. This is going to be somebody you're going to be seeing in the Big 3. He fit that perfectly. I feel like, remember how Joe Johnson retired there for a bit and went to the Big Three and absolutely dominated. And then NBA teams were like, hold up, wait a second, Joe Johnson still got game. I think the same thing could happen here for Luol Deng. If he goes to the Big Three, I think he's going to be dominant.
And Andre Iguodala, 35 years old. We're talking about his buyout market potentially right now, saying that he's all right with just not playing for the Grizzlies. Currently, that's the team that he's on since the trade there from Golden State. He hasn't participated in any off-season workouts, anything like that. No preseason work, nothing. He's fine with it. So as Woj announced that Iguodala is okay with sitting out basically the whole season. He's not going to take a pay cut here just to get bought out. He wants his money. He's willing to go to a contender. Of course, teams around the league know that what his situation is, so they're not going to overpay him as far as a trade is concerned. So they're just going to wait on him getting bought out. Plus, it'll be cheaper for any team that is a contender. And right now, the Lakers and the Clippers at the top of his list.
Yeah, how do you blame him? I mean, this is somebody in Andre Iguodala who's been on these Golden State Warriors teams that have been contending year after year in the finals. Then he gets shifted off there to Memphis, and the situation in Memphis is obviously on the come up, but here's somebody that wants to still compete for titles. I mean, how can you blame him? I mean, I think he'd be a great fit in LA with the Lakers. He'd be a great fit for the Clippers. Hey, I'll take him back in Philly and have him come off the bench for the 76ers if he's willing to do that. He played it for the Sixers at the beginning of his career. He was a part of those Sixers playoff runs in the late 2000s, and he obviously got traded there to the Nuggets, had that big year with the Nuggets, and then the Golden State Warriors. So I'd love to have an Andre Iguodala on my team if I'm a Lakers, if I'm a Clippers, if I'm a Rockets. I mean, I think he'd be a great fit for somebody who's contending. And, hey, he doesn't want to play for a team that might make the playoffs, probably won't make the playoffs, and just burn out energy for no reason. He wants another title. How about he goes to somebody that can contend for one?
Yeah, I would love that if he signed with the 76ers once he got bought out. That would be a great move. Some dude that can just come in and play excellent defense off the bench, hit a clutch shot if you need to. Because right now the discussion is around Philadelphia, who's going to hit that clutch shot for you now that Jimmy Butler's gone? Is it going to be Tobias Harris? Is it going to be Joel Embiid? Is it going to be Ben Simmons? Who knows? But Andre Iguodala has proven time and time again that he's not scared of the moment. He's going to step up to the line. He's going to make his shots. He's going to be a professional about it. He's played over 1,000 games in the NBA. This is a seasoned, grizzled veteran here. He would be a great addition to anybody's teams. But right now, eyeballing the Clippers and the Lakers. McClure, who would you like to see him sign with out of those two teams in LA?
I actually think when you look at it, I think he'd have a better fit with the Clippers because they got a little bit – or Lakers. I'm sorry, Lakers I think he'd have a better fit with because if you look at it, they got some veterans on that squad. You got Dwight Howard and you got guys like LeBron and Avery Bradley and just an array of players on that Lakers team. And that's somebody that you can put on a Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs if he would be on the Lakers, and somebody who is going to be able to defend those kind of guys. He did it to LeBron how many years in the finals? He was the main guy when Durant wasn't on the Warriors that was guarding LeBron. So if you add that on LeBron's team on the Lakers, I mean, I think that fit's going to be perfect. If he goes to the Lakers, I think he'd be a good fit if he goes to the Clippers as well, because that's somebody that could come off your bench. He's played with Lou Williams before, and again, he can guard any position really outside of the five. That I think, I mean, he guarded LeBron in those finals, man. So either fit would be good. I think the Lakers will be better just because of the different kind of characters and veterans they got on that squad.
Yeah, if you were to sign with the Lakers there, without a doubt, my lock to win it all, just because the defensive intensity on that team would be bar none. I mean, you talk about defense for the Clippers, but you add an Iguodala with a LeBron James and Anthony Davis, that's going to be absolutely stifling. If he gets bought out, we will see. But Andre Iguodala feeling it out right now and making that money. Go get it, Iggy. And Bradley Beal, speaking of money, just signed a pretty big contract there to stay with the Washington Wizards, a team that we expect to not really make much noise right now in the Eastern Conference, especially with John Wall still recovering from injury. The deal includes a player option at the end of the 2023 season, or for the 2023 season. It is up to 4 years, $130 million. Right now, it's a $72 million max contract. It's not quite the super max. He hasn't made that All-NBA team, so he's not viable for that option. But Bradley Beal rolling in cash right now.
And he deserves it. This is somebody who's an absolute stud on the basketball court. And him and John Wall have been an elite tandem for the Washington Wizards over the last few years. And now it's his team because John Wall's gone with the injury all season pretty much. And we saw in glimpses of last year that he struggled to take over that leadership role, I think, because that Wizards team wasn't really any good. And I'll tell you what, it's not that good this year. So I'm praying for Bradley Beal right now because the team's going to stink in Washington, and he's the only dude that's going to be able to produce on that squad. And he's a really good player. He can score from anywhere on the basketball court. He's a good defender, but you got just him on that team, man. It's going to be a struggle in D.C. I'm praying for you and your fans, man, because it's going to be rough.
2017-18 season, 2018-19 season, he averaged around 25 points per game, played in every single game, started every single game those 2 seasons. Wow. So been a really healthy player here for the Wizards. They drafted him. He's been with this team since that 2012 NBA draft, which we will be getting to later on in the show with our final blast from the draft. He started in the league at 19 years old, and he's only gotten so much better. This is a guy who could really push for an All-NBA team, especially since he is the only star on that team. He's going to have to go out and put up monster numbers. I'm kind of surprised that he signed this extension. I'm not surprised that the Wizards were looking to lock him down because they said earlier in the offseason that they really weren't looking to trade Bradley Beal at all. Nobody could really persuade them to move him. And this guy right now is the major part of whatever core they're trying to assemble in Washington. They don't want to give this guy up. They think that they have a franchise-changing superstar on that team. He's coming into his prime. He's really got 5 to 6 great years left in him. I think it was a great idea for Beal to make sure that there was a player option at the end of that deal, just because who knows where the Wizards are going to be in 2 years.
No one knows.
They could make a massive leap and be contenders in the Eastern Conference, or they could just remain the dumpster fire that they've been since they got kicked out of the Eastern Conference playoffs a few years ago. I mean, they look good. We were talking about it in the car whenever we were coming up. Yeah. They look like a team on the rise, and lately they've just been a pile of dog crap. I don't know what's going on with this Wizards franchise. They just signed a new GM this year. We'll see what they have in their back pockets. They're going to have to pull something out of their hats, though, because this season's going to look rough.
Yeah, you're right, man. It's going to look rough. And I give credit to Bradley Beal because this is somebody that wants to stay in D.C. and says, hey, I'm in my prime. I could go to a contender, but I want to stay here in Washington, see what we got going here, and maybe we can turn it around. I applaud Bradley Beal for that.
His contract, one more note about this before we head to commercial break, his contract is pretty close to what Russell Westbrook's contract was a few years ago. After KD left, they signed Westbrook to that extension. Basically the same thing. They didn't sign him for the full 4 years. They didn't sign Westbrook for a full 4 years either. It was more of a player option type thing, really giving the player a lot of power here, a lot of leverage for what they want to do in their career. It's really just more of a 1-year extension because he's not set to hit the free agency market even after this year without that extension. But Bradley Beal getting that money. We're going to go to commercial break. After we come back, we're going to be recapping NBA Wednesday preseason.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah.
Bringing the segment back from last year. We love watching basketball on Wednesdays especially. So we'll be back with a little bit of Hawks versus Knicks, Lakers versus Golden State. and a few other games that were going on recently. We will be right back. Welcome back here to Half Court. We're talking a little bit of NBA preseason action, starting off with the 8 p.m. game last night. It was the Hawks versus the Knicks. Kind of a sloppy game there for the Knicks. It was a close one. It was a nail-biter, but a few possessions back and forth. Just you could really tell that there was a lot of youth on these basketball teams. At parts, it was a little bit rough to watch here, although it was basketball, McClure. I'm not complaining, but we got to see a little bit more from both of these teams if they're going to try and make a splash in the regular season.
And the best part about this game between the Hawks and the Knicks was the Vince Carter show, man. Vince Carter is in his 20-something season in the NBA. This guy drained like 3 or 4 threes in a row, and the bench was going crazy. I was going crazy. He was unbelievable in this game, and here's somebody that's battling for minutes because this is a Hawks team that is much deeper now, and a team that is going to be a threat there in the Eastern Conference playoff mix. I think just going to be right in the mix there to make the playoffs. John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, Alex Len played a bunch of minutes. Trae Young and Cam Reddish, that's a young starting 5 there for the Atlanta Hawks. And you still got DeAndre Bembry, who played a lot of minutes last year. You signed Jabari Parker in the offseason, and he's going to be somebody that is going to be able to contribute for your bench. This is an interesting Hawks team, man, and I think it's going to be one that are going to surprise some people because this is a team that has some guys that can shoot the ball, and Trae Young and Cam Reddish, and you got some guys like DeAndre Hunter and John Collins. DeAndre Hunter, obviously a rookie. We're going to see what he's made of, but John Collins is coming off an unbelievable season for the Atlanta Hawks last year. It's going to be in this Hawks team.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the Hawks this season. They're one of those teams that really intrigue me. I like the young core that they have going on there. You mentioned it, John Collins and Trae Young. They bring in Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter this year in the draft. I don't like Alex Len. I think Alex Len sucks. Yeah. Honestly, this dude is terrible. He was really killing my vibe last night. He didn't look good at all against a New York Knicks team that was like starting.
You're right, man. He was out there. I'm like, can you just get off the court?
Seriously, I hate watching that guy play basketball. Big bust whenever he was drafted. Didn't do anything his entire career. I'm not a big fan of this dude whatsoever. If you're going to spend money this offseason, go get yourself a center, please.
Get yourself a big, please.
Oh, my Lord.
Please,
swing a trade for a big something because it's just like Alex Len, are you kidding me, dude? This guy's like a cup of ramen noodles out here, dude. Like, he's terrible. I don't like watching him whatsoever. He's bland. It's bad. Like, I guess he gets the job done.
I guess.
Like, if you were a poor team trying to get a guy on, like, a veteran's minimum deal, maybe bring him in. But are you serious? He's starting for you at center?
If anything, he should be coming off the bench. You need to get a center there if you're the Hawks.
I was watching him try and shoot threes against this Knicks team, and it was, like, just a pathetic endeavor out there for Len behind the arc. I hated watching him against a guy like Bobby Portis who dominated him, or a Mitchell Robinson who, in my opinion, looked absolutely lost last night. This dude looked lost. He was reaching for passes that weren't intended for him. He didn't know where to be on defense. He doesn't understand the pick and roll. This guy is very gifted as far as his physical build and frame is concerned, and his skills that could translate, but he's got to get his head right, man. He took that year off from basketball and didn't play in college, and now he's a second-year player on this Knicks team. He really needs to improve.
Yeah, and he had a pretty solid year for the Knicks last year towards the end, where he was really coming around and being somebody at that 5 position that would get you some boards and play some good defense and have a little offensive game. But you're right, he looked a little bit lost there last night. I know it's preseason. You got some new guys there, and I'll tell you who else look needs to be better for the New York Knicks. Frank Ntilikina. I mean, he's got to be way better than 2 points, 3 assists, and 3 boards in 21 minutes.
He's been awful.
Well, they were talking about him. I need to see a little bit more from Frank Frank Ntilikina. I mean, this is somebody that you drafted in the top 10. Now, it was Phil Jackson's draft pick at 8 there for the Knicks, but this is somebody who's got to grow and have to be good for the Knicks to win some games this year.
Kevin Knox coming off the bench now for the Knicks. They swap him for they pick up Marcus Morris here in the recent offseason. He put in some minutes. He's kind of just got that dog mentality, Marcus Morris, and I think they really wanted to have an injection of somebody who's been there, done that for this Knicks team. That's not coming off the bench. I know Taj Gibson, he's been there and done that. Other than that, there's not really a guy on this team other than maybe Julius Randle, but he hasn't enjoyed any postseason success either. So Marcus Morris starting for this team, I think it's a good move because Kevin Knox can come in off the bench and give you that punch, give you those a couple minutes, probably 20 to 25 minutes a game off the bench. He can be a very versatile scorer for you. He's proven that he has range beyond the arc. He's got good size. He's still a really young guy. So he's got room to grow, doesn't necessarily have to guard those starting wings for other teams that may just come out and dominate and shatter his confidence. I like this role now for Kevin Knox. He can mature at his own pace.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. This is somebody in Marcus Morris that is a big-time – or not a big-time player, but somebody that's been there, done that, has been in a starter's role there with the Boston Celtics and was a pretty good player for them during their runs over the last few years. And he comes in here as a starter probably for the New York Knicks. And Kevin Knox now coming off the bench, it gives him time to kind of mature, like you said, Dolby. And he doesn't – last year I felt like he was kind of just put in the starting position. Now he's got to work a little bit harder to gain that starter's position. But I like his role off the bench. I think it's going to make him better. And I think he's going to be a pretty good contributor for the New York Knicks off the bench. He's still very young. And this is somebody that I think is going to be a lot better this year.
The Lakers played the Warriors last night at the 10:30 slot. Thought it was going to be a little bit more of a competitive game than what it was. But in all reality, holy moly, the Warriors looked lost out there. The whole team looked lost. And this is where, you can really see their depth come through because – they had guys like Jordan Poole out there putting in major minutes for him. Or Marquise Chris played 25 minutes. Oh, my Lord.
It is preseason.
I don't care what it is, dude.
I agree. I mean, you really did see this depth. And they were talking, on the broadcast about, is Marquise Chris going to make this team? And it sure looks like it because I'll tell you what, you got no names on this Warriors team. And if something would happen to Steph Curry, you're in some trouble. If you are the Golden State Warriors, I think you need to really think about that and say, hey, we're not as talented as we were, even as we were. You got a lot of guys who are rookies, second-year players, some young guys. I like the D'Angelo Russell signing, and he was probably the only bright spot in that game last night for the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, Steph Curry didn't play. The LA Lakers beating the Warriors 126-93 in Staples Center. It was a heck of a game for a lot of these Lakers out there. I mean, Anthony Davis almost had a triple-double. LeBron James played very well. He looked unstoppable at times on the court. Avery Bradley contributed with 18 points. Everybody kind of chipped in. And what I really want to highlight is Quinn Cook and Dwight Howard.
I was just going to say that.
Oh, my goodness. Quinn Cook looked silky smooth.
He looked good. He looked really good last night. I was really impressed with what I saw from Quinn Cook and what he was doing out there for the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think this is somebody that is going to be a contributor off the bench for this Lakers squad. He really played well last night. And I got to also give credit to Dwight Howard, man. That was a great performance last night. He's battling there for that second center spot, which JaVale McGee, you could honestly run 3 centers if you really wanted to. But we'll have to see where his future is with the Lakers. But I was pretty impressed with Dwight Howard and what he did last night. This is somebody that has been to an NBA Finals and carried a Magic team. He's been to a bunch of All-Stars. I believe it's 8. He's been a big-time player, a rebounding leader. This guy ain't a scrub. And if he has a role here on this Lakers team, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world for him.
No, I really like Quinn Cook as like a backup 2 guard or even a backup point guard at times when Rajon Rondo doesn't match up well with whoever they're playing. This is a really deep team here for the Lakers. I love their depth. They look great.
I think I was wrong on this. I know that was a question mark I had going into this year. I really didn't see a lot of game action yet. And I watched that game last night, and I'm saying, you look at the numbers here in this preseason, and this preseason game, and it's a lot of just guys everywhere contributing with, a few buckets here. You see Kendavius Caldwell-Pope with 8, Danny Green with 8, Avery Bradley with 18, JaVale McGee with 12. We mentioned Quinn Cook and Dwight Howard. Jared Dudley gave you some good minutes. I understand, like, at the beginning that I might have been a little bit wrong on this Lakers depth, man, but you got some dogs on this team. I'm not going to lie. And it's going to be, I think, a really, really good season for the Los Angeles Lakers. They're going to be probably one of the most exciting teams in the NBA this season.
Yeah, they're looking like the Showtime Lakers, man. This is going to be a great product. And I just found myself getting so excited watching this preseason game. It's meaningless, but like, just watching these guys, how they interact with each other on the court, every time that Dwight Howard would get a big put-back jam, I was out of my seat. Yeah. I love watching Dwight Howard. I think he's going to be a huge role player for this Lakers team. He's looked great. He's in a reduced minutes role. He doesn't need to be the guy anymore. This dude's putting on a show.
Yeah, I said it, man, and just a few seconds ago, if he can get into a role there on the bench and be fine with the role, I think he's going to pan out just fine for him. You saw what JaVale McGee did last year. He had a pretty solid year, JaVale McGee, and you bring him back, and you got Dwight Howard. You got some good centers on this team for the Los Angeles Lakers. AD and those 2 guys, watch out, West. Watch out.
You want to talk about rim protection?
Yeah.
Those 3 dudes right there.
Watch out.
Oh, my gosh.
Watch out.
You want to hear how desperate the Warriors are? They signed this dude, Kavion Pippen. Oh. You want to guess who he's related to? It's in the last name. Scottie Pippen's nephew, dude. They're playing the lottery genetics, or the genetics lottery right here, just hoping that they can get some semblance of Scottie Pippen, because right now this team looks like trash. They got this dude number 95. I'm asking myself all game, who is number 95? They're not saying his name at all. Why? Because he didn't make one good play all game. He got some serious minutes at 16 minutes last night. 3 rebounds, no assists, no points for this dude. You want to talk about a guy who looked lost. Yeah. Number 95 for the Warriors. I pray to God that for these fans, they just built this new stadium. They're getting really excited for the year. Let's hope that number 95 does not see the court or even make the final roster.
That's the thing, man. You just don't know when you look at this Warriors team. You really don't know who's going to be out there and be a contributor off the bench. You really don't. And it's because you got rid of guys like Iguodala, Sean Livingston, and somebody else. I can't remember his name right now, but it's because you got rid of some of those guys, and you're going to have to go with some of your young bucks that you drafted, and you're going to have to see how it pans out. And that's why if Steph Curry would get hurt, and I'm not saying he will, because I think I want to see him play the entire year, but if for some reason he's missing significant time, the Warriors will be in some trouble.
I mean, we had him ranked number 7 in the Western Conference in our preseason poll. So, I mean, I think that's about where they're going to slide in. I highly doubt they miss the playoffs, but I don't think they're really going anywhere, especially without Klay Thompson.
No way.
Some more NBA news here for the preseason. The 76ers have looked really good. They're 3-0 against American competition. They are undefeated so far throughout the preseason. these dudes, they look like a squad that has chemistry going already, even with Richardson coming in this offseason, or Tybal, who just got drafted, just starting to find a role there for the 76ers. They've been getting a lot of contributions from all over this roster. They've looked really good this preseason.
They've been creaming people with in the preseason, and I'll tell you what, there's a lot of chemistry, I think, on this team right now, and you saw it especially in the fourth quarter of that game where Norvell Powell was blocking those shots against the Pistons. Did you see how that bench just exploded? I mean, then and there, you know that this team is all business. They're all good friends, I'd say, and they got some good pieces on this team, man. You add in Al Horford, you add Josh Richardson, who a lot of people are saying is a lesser Jimmy Butler, somebody who's like a little bit younger, has kind of the same skill set, not as good as the clutch game, and maybe not so on defense, but is growing, and maybe somebody that could be that guy later in his career as he hits his prime. I like what I've seen from those two guys, especially Richardson. And this Sixers team, man, they're all business. You hear Ben Simmons in his interviews. This is going to be a big-time 76ers squad.
Yeah, they have not allowed a team to score 100 points yet this preseason at all. And whenever they had ones against the Magic, they beat them by 30-plus points. This team has been really just jaw-dropping how much our star players – have really increased, like their potential and their role in this team. Like they've been shocking me completely. Embiid has looked great. Horford has looked great. Harris has looked fantastic. And Ben Simmons, the shock of it all, can shoot a three-pointer. Oh, my Lord.
We'll have to see on the three-pointer. You did make that one in preseason, but I want to see it during the regular season.
Zion and the Pelicans. Sleeper in the West?
Ooh, I've been impressed with the Pelicans, and especially Zion Williamson. He's averaged 23 in preseason, and he looks like a man-child out there. And he looks like somebody who's going to take this league by storm. And the over-under for them in wins is 39.5. I think they're going to be right there. I'm taking the over on that. I think they might get 41, 42 wins.
This has looked like an impressive squad right here, especially with Lonzo dropping dimes to Zion in the paint.
That's going to be great.
This is like new Lob City out here. I like watching them play. Do I think that they're going to reach that 39.5 mark? No. They're a young team. They haven't played together long at all. They're trying to put a bunch of pieces together. We saw it with Miami whenever they got their big three. We saw it last year with LeBron, with basically this same team in LA. And they weren't a playoff team then. They were hanging around for a while, but is this a team right now with all these young players that I think are going to make the playoffs or even reach 500? No. Okay. I'm going to take the under, maybe 35 wins. They're going to look good. Every game that they play is going to be a fun game to watch. I think they'll be in a lot of games, but they don't really have that guy that's going to close out a game for them yet.
I respect that.
We'll see what Drew Holiday can do, or maybe Derek Favors. But right now, it's just a lot of pieces meshing together. Give it time.
Okay.
1 year, 2 years in the future, this is going to be a team that we talk about a lot more, especially if Zion stays healthy. They're undefeated in the preseason. They've looked great. I mean, scoring over 125 points in most of their games. The one outlier there is 123 against the Spurs. So they've been a really high-flying team. The defense isn't quite there yet. But I do like this team not to hit the over, though, at 39.5. James Harden had a major game against the Spurs. Sadly, the rest of his team played like crap. So that's what you're going to get from James Harden. You're going to get those big bucket games from James Harden where he goes off, almost had a triple-double, 40 points, 7 assists, 10 rebounds, but the rest of his team really were absent.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the story of what the Rockets have been the last few years. It's been the James Harden show and other guys not stepping up. Now they do have Russell Westbrook. It is just preseason, And this is going to be a team that's going to be right in the mix in the West. I think they could maybe surprise some people and get a top 3 seed, maybe a 2 seed if they just get more wins than, say, the Lakers for whatever reason. But we'll have to see. You're going to see a lot of that this year from James Harden.
Dillon Brooks dropping 30 on the Thunder last night. That was great.
I like that.
The Grizzlies they really need somebody who can come in and get them buckets. Dillon Brooks, not a guy that's gonna really be a game changer as far as passing the ball or going to get boards, but
he can put the ball in the hoop.
That's the truth. They're going to need that guy this upcoming season with a very young roster. We'll see how Dillon Brooks progresses throughout the year. Keep an eye on this young fella for the Memphis Grizzlies. And C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard having an absolute night against the Jazz as their team defeats the Utah Jazz 126-118. Looked really good last night.
I'm a fan of this Blazers team, man, and I always have been, and they took a good step last year. Got to the Western Conference Finals, obviously got swept, and I think that's just because they ran out of gas there. They had a really tough series against the Denver Nuggets, and you still got some good players on this Portland Trail Blazers team, man, and you still got some guys. You got Rodney Hood's coming back. Mo Harkless is still there. They were coming off your bench. You finally got rid of Aminu. He's gone, and you still got Dame and CJ, man. It's going to be a great season for the Blazers.
Lillard dropping 25 points, 4 assists, and 5 rebounds. And C.J. McCollum having a nice game, 28 points, 4 assists, and 2 rebounds in about 25 minutes. So you love to see the production there for those 2 stars, especially given that their time was limited on the court. Looked really great against a Jazz team that a lot of us expect will do great things next year. That's an intriguing team there for Portland. We're going to cut it to our last commercial break, bring you our last Blast from the Draft segment. It's a 2012 NBA Draft, guys. We've really enjoyed this segment. I hope you guys do too. Here coming up after this quick commercial break. All right, McClure, final Blast from the Draft segment here for us. 2012 NBA Draft featuring Anthony Davis at the very top of that list. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. This was a very top-heavy draft, and then there was a few steals there to be had in the second round if your GMs were savvy enough to actually find the talent that would produce in the NBA. The middle of the draft really was stinking like my laundry basket, man. That thing was that was a poor middle of the draft there for the NBA. McClure, why don't you kick us off with your bust of the draft?
My bust of the draft is the Sacramento Kings picking 5th Thomas Robinson. And this has really been a pattern with the Sacramento Kings. When you look at these blasts from the drafts we've done, I think we started there 2016 and went down. This has been a recurring pattern, man. This guy has absolutely stunk in the NBA. He played at Kansas, and everybody thought he was going to be a dominant player in the NBA, and he stunk. And here's a point here with the Sacramento Kings when you look at it. And when you look at it and you compare it to a Blazers team that has been drafting good, and we'll get to that later. When you draft guys like Thomas Robinson and Ben McLemore, and you're always at the top 8, top 6 in the draft, you're not going to be good. And that's why the Kings haven't been good for a long, long, long time, because they make decisions like this and draft people that haven't been good don't get it done. And, Thomas Robinson in this draft is a perfect example of that. I bet people are saying, Thomas who? That's right, because he was a nobody for the Sacramento Kings. He's not even in the league anymore. He was terrible. And when you look at the top players in this draft, the Kings definitely missed out on a star because they made the wrong decision here, and they've continued to do that.
Yeah, what a freaking bust there for the Kings. Oh, my Lord. You said it perfectly there. The Kings constantly picking in the lottery. And it's like, and what seems like another motif for me are Kansas players that never live up to the hype.
Yeah.
It seems like all these Kansas players this is a blue chip program here, and they almost never develop into decent NBA players. I don't know what's going on with that program. They've kind of slipped a little bit lately in college basketball, and they're just not producing the way that they used to in the NBA. For me, my bust of the draft, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist out of Kentucky at number 2 from the Charlotte Hornets. Surprise, surprise. The same story there for the Hornets as it is for the Kings. Constantly picking in the top half of the lottery, the top 8 picks there, and they never land their guy other than Kemba Walker, who isn't even there anymore. But, Kidd-Gilchrist, he's still playing for the Hornets here. He hasn't really been all that great. Average 8.8 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 1 assist throughout his career. Just kind of been the same player, but he deals with health issues. He is just he doesn't do anything great for you. There's been 2 seasons where he's averaged more than 10 points. 2.
Wow.
In his 7-year career. Are you serious right now? The dude never plays more than 30 minutes a game. He doesn't shoot particularly well. He doesn't do anything great that's eye-popping. He didn't even attempt a 3 in 2017, 2018. It's like, what's going on here with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist? He's not great. He's not great from the line. He's not great from behind the arc. He's an okay defensive player. But for the number 2 overall pick, when a guy like Bradley Beal was taken right behind him, or Damian Lillard or Harrison Barnes, these are players that could have impacted your franchise so much more than a Michael Kidd-Gilchrist.
Yeah, he couldn't shoot. He couldn't shoot at all. And that's somebody that you thought was going to be a big-time player, because him and Anthony Davis were on the same team there at Kentucky and were dominant, and it just didn't really translate there to the NBA. I'll tell you who translated nice in the NBA for my gem of the draft. It's Chris Middleton, in my opinion, drafted 39th by the Detroit Pistons, and then he was traded along with Brandon Knight to the Milwaukee Bucks in exchange for guard Brandon Jennings. Remember Brandon Jennings? And this is somebody, and Chris Middleton has been a really good complementary piece for Giannis. And he made the All-Star team last year, and deservingly so. He's a great player for that Bucks team. He averaged 18.3 points, 6 boards, and 4 assists last year. And this is somebody that's really turned out to be a great player. Drafted number 39 in the 2nd round, man. That's an absolute steal. That's a gem. And that's why the Bucks are where they are today, because you drafted somebody like that who came up big.
Yeah, similar story here for me in my gem of the draft. Draymond Green, the 35th overall pick in this draft. From the production that we've seen from him so far, he deserved to be in the top 8. He's a Swiss Army knife, folks. This guy can do it all. He's played on just the Warriors. He's a 5-time all-defensive player, a 3-time champ, 2-time all-NBA. He's not a selfish guy. He goes in, he does whatever you need him to do. Does he shoot the 3 particularly well? No. Does he have to? Not at all. Any team would be lucky to have a guy like Draymond Green. He has been absolutely fantastic. And in the 2nd round of this draft, you take Draymond Green? I mean, absolute gem. I love this pick for the Warriors, as we've all seen what he's become. One of the biggest role players on these championship rosters. He deserves everything that he has now. He's busted his butt from day one as soon as he got in the league. He's been very healthy throughout his whole career. He will step up for you if he needs to. He will take a seat if he needs to. This is the ultimate team player. He's the lifeblood of that Warriors team. He's the heart and soul there. He's the guy that really gets everybody else motivated. Great locker room guy. Excellent pick here at number 35 overall.
Yeah, and you said it. He's not going to be somebody that's going to give you 20 a night, but he's going to be somebody that's going to defend. He can defend any position on the court outside of point guard. He can rebound, and he's really become a really solid passer. I actually saw him last night bringing the ball up a little bit for the Golden State Warriors. So just an all-around guy. He contributed to those championship teams. He deserves to be a gem of the draft, as well as Chris Middleton. So, Dolby, your smart pick here, who you got?
For my smart pick of the draft, I have Mike Scott, taken by Atlanta, 43rd overall out of the University of Virginia. What a steal, man. I love Mike Scott. This dude's out there, punching Eagles fans in the face at tailgates. He brings that dog mentality that we keep talking about here on that show. You need a few of those guys if you're going to try and compete. Mike Scott doesn't take BS from anyone. This dude is tatted head to toe. He's a great player. I love him in the locker room for the Philadelphia 76ers now. He's a stretch four, can come in, give you good minutes, play some decent defense, and really create mismatches on the offensive side of the game. I love Mike Scott. You see it week in and week out whenever we do the Blast from the Draft. It's these Virginia guys that are taken in the second round that really develop. They know where to be on the court. They just have to work on their game a little bit. Once you go from college to the NBA, that's all you got to do is work on your game. You don't got to worry about classes. You don't have to worry about anything. It's just basketball. So was he a finished product coming out of Virginia? No. Has he been a solid contributor on an Atlanta Hawks team that used to make deep playoff runs in the East, and now for a Philadelphia 76ers team that will continue to make playoff runs in the East? Absolutely. Yes, he's been a great player. For me, my smart pick of the draft.
Yeah, my smart pick of the draft is Jay Crowder, who was drafted by Dallas at 34. The rights went to Dallas there. Cleveland drafted him. The rights went to Dallas. And this is somebody who, throughout his career in the NBA, has been just a solid NBA player. You know what you're going to get from this guy. He brings a different kind of edge. He plays hard. He rebounds pretty well. He's a three. He can play four if you need him to. He's somebody. I think a good comparison here, maybe not as much as an offensive player, is Thad Young. I think he kind of is somebody that you know what you're going to get. You know you're going to get 100% effort. He's kind of bounced around the league a little bit. Played in Boston, Cleveland, Dallas. He's been all over the NBA, and he is a great just player for teams that need other guys to step up, that you can trust to hit that shot from the corner, that can get you that rebound, that can maybe possibly get you that steal that you need. I'm not saying this guy's an elite player, but I'm saying this is somebody that you know what you're gonna get. He's consistent. And when you draft these type of guys in the second round that just play hard, you can get somebody like this. And, I think he was a really smart pick there for the Mavericks. And this is somebody who's bounced around the league and has just done a great job everywhere he's been.
I always compared Jay Crowder to LeBron James light, honestly. He can do everything on the court for you. He's going to be smart with the basketball. He's almost built similar to LeBron, same kind of frame. Yeah, just a big guy. He's going to bull you over in the paint. I like his game a lot. I think that's an excellent smart pick there for Dallas, 34th overall. And my best pick of the draft, it's got to be the first overall pick, Anthony Davis. You didn't mess around if you were the Hornets at the time, or the Hornets at the time for New Orleans. You took the guy that was a clear-cut number one prospect coming out of Kentucky. He can do it all. 3-time All-NBA, 6-time All-Star, 3-time block leader, 3-time All-Defensive Player of the Year, 2012, 2013 all rookie. He is just the All-Star MVP in 2016, 2017. I mean, the accolades go on and on and on for Anthony Davis. Clearly, you see why the Lakers gave up such a haul for him in the offseason, but he had great numbers for New Orleans. He carried that franchise, really was the only part of that franchise that made them relevant year after year. He filled the stands for New Orleans. He brought that energy and intensity. He was a franchise player, probably the best player in the history of the Pelicans / Hornets. He was great. I mean, you don't mess around here. For his career average, 26 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists. You got to love a guy like that. He's stayed relatively healthy throughout his career, and the only reason why they ever made the playoffs during this 7-year stretch.
Because of him. And my best pick of the draft is Damian Lillard. I mean, from Weber State, unbelievable. There, I think he was drafted number 6 overall by the Portland Trailblazers. Back-to-back drafts where the Portland Trailblazers were absolutely sensational. They drafted C.J. McCollum in 2013, and then 2012, Damian Lillard. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable.
Wow.
This is somebody for his career who's 23 or averaging 23 and a half, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. He won the Rookie of the Year made the All-Rookie team in 2012, 2013, 4-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA, did win the Rookie of the Year in 2012, 2013. This is a guy that just brings it night in and night out and just is somebody that is a dog out there on the court. You heard us say that all night. You got to have that dog mentality. Damian Lillard has it, man. This is somebody who is just unbelievable. I'm a big fan of his, and that's why he's the best pick in the draft for me.
Yeah, for my WTF pick of the draft, I'm going to have to go Fab Melo for the Boston Celtics. The dude played in like 6 games professionally, played in Brazil, actually died in 2017. He's passed away.
Wow.
Yes. 2 years ago,
Wow.
passed away in Brazil. So what was going on there? It was pronounced natural causes. Of course, that's by a Brazilian doctor. Not sure how great their medical staffs are down there.
Jeez,
but
man.
Oh my Lord, WTF! Like, what's going on with Fab Melo? What happened there?
What happened there?
He didn't produce it all for you in the NBA. He was good in the D League for you. He made the All Rookie team in the D League.
Wow.
Played overseas and just never panned out. And just to go back to back here, they took Jared Sullinger with the 22nd overall pick, another bust.
Yeah.
So like this, just a bad draft here. WTF Boston Celtics. What are you doing to these guys?
My WTF pick. It is Kendall Marshall. This is somebody who was drafted 13th overall by the Phoenix Suns and really just never lived up to the hype that he had at UNC. And again, I'll say it again, this is why the Suns are where they are, because you draft guys like this that don't do anything, and you pass on guys that you think are going to be good. Just another bad pick here for the Phoenix Suns. That's my WTF pick.
Yeah, the best team draft for us, we kind of agreed on this. Actually, we totally agreed on this. Best team draft would have been the Golden State Warriors taking Harrison Barnes with the 7th overall pick. Festus Ezeli at the back end of the draft, who was a contributor at center for that championship-winning team. And also Draymond Green with 35th, who we touched on earlier. What a draft there. The building blocks for, a dynasty in Golden State.
Yep. Unbelievable draft there for Golden State. And when you draft guys that contribute to titles for years, that's why you are where you are, because you draft guys that contribute and make big time plays and help a team win. And that's why the Golden State Warriors are where they are today, because they built through the draft, gained some guys in free agency, and that's why they went to those finals year after year, because they do the smart things. And this is a draft where it all really started for the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah. You got to love that draft. And for me, the worst team draft would have to be the Houston Rockets. They had 3 picks in that first round. They could have gotten any of those gems that we talked about earlier, or Draymond Green, or even like a Will Barton they could have had. Instead, they draft Jeremy Lamb, Royce White, and Terrence Jones. Are you kidding me right now? Those 3 picks? Jeremy Lamb's been the best of all of them, and that dude stinks.
Yeah.
He's been terrible. He scored 8,900 points in the league, but that's just because he's hung around here for a while. Royce White played a total of 3 games in 9 minutes for the Rockets before hitting the bricks because of mental health issues, which people were very, very aware of whenever he was coming out of college. And then they go back and they get Terrence Jones from Kentucky, who scored 5,500 points in the league, but really was never a contributor anywhere. He has since been out of the league. He played 6 seasons there. Wasn't really a contributor for the Rockets. Just a really bad draft when he could have had. Yeah, it could have had any other contributing player. You could have taken a John Henson at 12. You could have had a Thomas Satoransky. You could have had a Jay Crowder or a Draymond Green, a Chris Middleton. Come on, guys. Will Barton. Any of these guys would have been so much better than drafting Terrence Jones or Royce White especially. Terrible draft for the Rockets. Evan Fournier at 20. These would have all been great picks here for the Rockets. Terrible draft.
Yeah, it's a bad draft there for the Houston Rockets, and I think an even worse draft for the Sacramento Kings. I already mentioned Thomas Robinson, and they also drafted Orlando Johnson in the second round. When you look at it, you know what that could have been, guys? That could have been Damian Lillard, and that could have been Chris Middleton. That could have been Will Barton. That could have been Mike Scott, and instead you draft those guys. What else is there to be said? I said it earlier on this segment, and I'll say it once again. This is why the Kings have been bad. The whole reason they're good or getting better now is because they drafted pretty well. They drafted Buddy Hield. They drafted De'Aaron Fox. They made some trades to get some guys in there that will help. They drafted Willie Cauley-Stein. That's why they are a little bit better. Now Willie Cauley-Stein has moved, but that's besides the point. They drafted him. This is why. This is why the Kings are bad, because they've done this, and from the beginning to the end, I've been looking at the Sacramento Kings, really, and I'm saying, man, you missed out on some talent, and you drafted in the top 6, 8 every year. Worst draft in 2012, the Sacramento Kings.
All right. That's been our show, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching on Facebook Live. Appreciate the love and support.